All right, everybody, welcome to today's call. It is Friday, January 3rd of 2020. Clear vision, Laura, for the future, 2020. I hope. And welcome to today's call. This is the Realty Classroom Sales Training call, as you know. And I know that everybody's probably dragging their feet to get back to work, but we have been back to work for 48 hours in earnest and excited to go over all things sales training today. But what I'll say as people ramble in here, what we've discussed as we look back at what happened well last year is that, you begin to see things that work formulaically, and they work based on what the consumer feedback is. The consumer either appreciates what you're doing, they don't appreciate what you're doing, and that's the only boss we really have is the consumer. Do they respond to our offers? Do they respond to the materials that we send? This is all part of your sales, I guess funnel is the right way to say it. I've always preferred that it was this concept of an assembly line, that you're manufacturing relationships that yield a sale. That's what you do. And there's a big difference in that. And I think the key is to understand the big difference for us is that when we got really rooted in the concept of sharing, giving away our best stuff for free, and truly just being people for others, everything begins to change. I'm not saying quickly. I'm not saying overnight. I'm just saying you change first. Would you agree that's a fair statement as you stuff your face with your lunch across the camera, right? Yeah, it is, right? I mean, I'm speaking rhetorically because you and I both know that to be the case. And now clearly Autumn knows that as well, is that the more that we can empower people, the better off we've been, right?
Well, it makes the job more enjoyable, to be honest.
Well, that's a key point.
I mean, there was years where I was like, this job is soul sucking.
Yeah.
Legitimately, that's how I felt.
Yeah. Why though? Why when you're trying to be in the sales business, in this business in particular, real estate, why can it get soul sucking? Because it's not, didn't always start that way for you, myself, anybody else. But why can it get that way? Because it's a good point. Why?
I think, largely when I felt that way, we were doing it the old way. Mm-hmm. So I kind of feel like I was shoveling shit up a stream, and it just got exhausting. Like, as you know, I didn't want the job back when I came home from Hawaii. And I desperately think I was searching for another way, because what I've discovered mostly this year is that, like, inside myself, I really enjoy being a person for others. So that concept really resonates to me, and it's fueling, not soul sucking. Yeah. Interesting. I would completely agree. I mean, I've always had that philosophy to try to be a person for others since I was young and in business. But I think what also happens, and you can attest to this on the client care part of the sale, right? Sure. Is that I think what's very easy to do is get sucked into the fact that you have to do transactions in a business to be there, but you can lose your space in that. So, where you and I are working on the sales funnel, look at the sales not done until it's done. So I think a lot of people, because in this call, we oftentimes are talking about the telemarketing piece or the in-house piece, because clearly those are very, very important, right? We understand that. But I think what we neglect to do as salespeople is get up above the whole process. And we did that with the mastermind group yesterday as we went back into this concept of funnel, that in the real estate agent business, and we were just talking to Josh as we onboarded him today about his landscaping business, where it's the same thing, that when you get up above the sale, you actually have to go all the way back to the beginning and ask yourself, am I intentionally and cognizantly trying to do business with people that I don't know? Because that's what perpetuates the safety. Right? You have to be able to do business with people you don't know forever. Otherwise, you're naively thinking that your third-party referrals from past clients or the repeat business is enough. It might be for some people, but it's not a business, right? All of a sudden, it's a reliance on third party, whereas you can go direct to consumer in this business. And so it can get exhausting. And I think that's why a lot of veterans will cheat towards their referred business and their repeat business, and they'll spend a lot of, if not all their time on that, because they're exhausted. They're tired. Things didn't work out, right? So it's comfortable. It's like you already have the relationship. You don't have to work hard for it.
Yeah.
It's just there.
Yeah. Well, it appears to be easier, but the truth be told, you're actually making yourself vulnerable to these big gaps in time. So that makes it easier, I think. And I don't know if this is what you were talking about by soul sucking, but we used to get sucked into doing business by other types of techniques that don't align with being a person for others. Let me explain.
Yeah.
The minute that you learn how to telemarket, cold call somebody, and you're being taught to use certain techniques and tactics of voice, NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, meaning we're repeating back to somebody so that they're supporting us because it's formulaic and it's a trigger. Okay, I get it. I get that there's a place for that, but I think the heart matters. What are we trying to do? Are we trying to learn how to do this by muscling our way through it like that? That gets soul-sucking fast.
For sure.
I think that no matter what, in any service business, there is a soul-sucking moment where you're tired. Yeah, we're all laughing here as experts, right? Where you're tired. Life that you have and you bring it into your business tires you, and you feel that the burdens of people that you don't know, because they're throwing up all over you, whatever their anxiety is about housing. Well, that's a collision. But I think what's amazing in that moment and why we enjoy it is if you can, and we talked about getting athletic, right? I'll explain what I mean. Laura and I had this conversation about getting athletic, and I'll explain that here in a second. But I think the whole point of taking that beat to get your feet underneath you like an athlete, that positioning, right? That the gymnast, that hockey player like Marty, just getting athletic, being in that athletic pose and understanding what you're in that moment is one piece of it. That's strategic and technical combined. Am I calling it expired? Do I have the visual of the package in front of me, this valuable thing? Do I have the script ready to go so that I stick to it and I'm understanding where I am? Do I take that breath before I dial the phone? Or am I just saying, I got to make my calls?
Well, if you think about it, when you do things on muscle, when you're not in the athletic mode, you're exhausting so many more calories because you're doing things and you're just haphazard, where when you're in it, it's a lot less effort.
Brilliant. Because if you look at top athletic performers, in our case, because we live in New England, we're biased. We get to see Tom Brady on a regular basis perform in the heat of the moment. Now, here's a guy that's, well beyond what a lot of players can play at. So why? Why does a top performer like that athletically, why are they able to excel for so much longer? Well, simply put, they have this mindset about them in that moment of time where they're not expending so many calories. And their thinking is clearer. Okay. So there's the analogy to get athletic about what you're doing in the moment. Am I going into a listing presentation? Do I take that moment, quote unquote, to get athletic, get my legs under me, take a look at the sheet with the questions, take a quick glance at the math, take a quick glance at the neighborhood, the exterior of there, and get my head ready. And remember to say, hey, thanks for having me over, which clicks into gear the whole formulaic approach, which has been refined, defined, then refined to serve that person, not me.
Yes.
Right? That's it, and it just doesn't take that much energy. And what I would say is that when you're in that sort of Zen reliance on something that you already know has been refined and serves those other people, you're right. I don't feel anywhere near as exhausted when I've gone into a lot of these presentations.
And you're detached from the outcome, which again burns less calories.
Yeah.
It's the whole thing just spins differently.
Yeah.
And when you're being a quote unquote person for others, it's just you're just like here, not like putting them in a headlock.
Yeah, right.
To do business with
Well,
you.
your anxiety to lose is overcoming your rationality. So it's sapping your energy in the moment. And ironically, I think you're becoming more defensive.
For sure.
I think salespeople are tending to defend. Even the top producers that are out there that have resume, that are going out there, they're almost already in that defensive. Who else am I up against? How long is my resume? How big is my company? Those are all defensive posturings.
Yep.
Those,
creaming the skin.
Yeah.
Okay,
You need more sleep.
mind.
Right. Skimming that cream off the top is you're trying to muscle your way. And if you lose, so be it. Boy, that's draining.
Yeah.
Right? It's just draining. And plus, I think if you're looking to build a business, the fact that you haven't left this kind of footprint beneath, whether you win, lose, or draw, I think that just doesn't help you build anything. So we wanted to share that with you because we've been going through this inventory moment at the end of a year to say, all right, look at how did we do this all year long? What strategies worked and where are we at? So in that overall sales funnel, when you get up above it, we see that marketing or trying to do business with people we don't know, we did a good job of that. Because we started trying to be a person for others, we developed out a package of information that was wildly empowering, that was like a do-it-yourself kit that you could get to people. And that allows us into many more quality conversations where, by the way, we're able to more easily define and decide, is somebody truly ready to do this? Because if they're not truly ready to commit to sell their property, for example, why are they doing it at all? And what's the reason for doing that? And so instead of rushing that you can get this appointment, it's like, oh, wait a minute, before we get appointments, are we going into something that's a valid appointment where that person is really ready to hear the further dissertation on how they can get through the process, right? So it like ends up affecting the entirety of the process. Now, coming forward, here's part of the sales funnel most of you never think about. You get the clients, but to have that client fulfill, meaning in our case in real estate, but this would be for any business, to fulfill and consummate the entirety of the deal, what's your onboarding process like? And do they still continually feel empowered and served? Yeah. Because you can do this in marketing and you can do this to convert them to a client. But if there's a chasm beneath you, once they become a client, you're not birthing that happy past client correctly. You're not birthing them into closing and then past client where they feel, oh, you were like that the whole way. And that's where walking the entirety of the sales funnel becomes a huge issue. Like you expect, because you got them a good price or you got the buyer a good buy, you expect them to what? Just, wake up and be a fan for life because you got them that piece. It's erroneous. And a lot of salespeople say, well, what do you mean? Like you didn't come back to me. I thought I did a good job. You did, but you kind of left me hanging during the closing process. You gave me to your closing coordinator and I never heard from you again. You weren't at the closing. I didn't get a gift. You didn't keep in touch with me. I didn't even know if your lights were still on, right? That's still all on the salesperson to consummate that all the way. So you have marketing for the salesperson, which is an expression of what you are selling, right? Yeah. Your message. Here's what I have. I'm selling my guidance. I'll give it to you for free. Wonderful. I'll lean in. Yeah. Phone call. What else can we do for you? Can we come over and give you some free time? Can we give you that advice? Right? Presentation, a deeper dive into the same advice, not new advice, not, bizarre stuff about resume, just deeper advice. Now, the logical conclusion for that person is to become a client. Now, everything from there is what's next. And that's where we arrive at the beginning of 2020, diving in deeper, because what the default mechanism is you do that on muscle. Yeah. And you repeat it. And now your muscle is only as good as you are that week with your own energy. You go home, you get exhausted by kids, this thing, that thing, and you come in, you're only as good as your energy. Whereas the system and a reorganization, getting athletic under that piss, getting my body set, getting that, again, like I talked with Marty about this in hockey, getting that rod through the back of your head, down out your butt, where you're standing strong, where no matter what comes at you, you're athletic. But that's empowered by a strategy. You have to understand why getting athletic is part of a strategy to be successful. And that's business, right?
Yeah, I think something that I've really realized just even since yesterday is that anything that we don't have like a step-by-step plan for, like we need one immediately.
And ironically, you can't get athletic. So in other words,
without it.
So in other words, I can't get in my stance to make a client follow-up call to give bad feedback about the marketplace if I don't have a strategy for that, right? If I didn't set that up right when they got onboarded, look, we're going to be calling you in the first 2 weeks to give you the litmus test. Did we or did we not get this right? Yeah. Right? Was there or was not any action? Then 30 days, we're going to have a face-to-face. That allows you to say, here's where we're at today. Here's where we're at next, because each time you can sit down in that athletic stance and you can be that person for others, even if it includes bearing bad news, right?
For sure. Yeah. If I never had to do a single thing in this business on muscle ever again, I would be the happiest saleswoman alive.
So how do you do that?
Like plans and systems.
Yeah. So you sit down,
Yeah.
you start with where am I at in my process where it's one place is strong. The other place doesn't feel the same.
Yeah.
I feel incongruent. I feel non-athletic. My bicep is out of whack. My legs feel strong. It's just the same thing.
Sure.
It's identical. So you have to then go in to be the complete player, to be the complete agent, salesperson. You have to have these things in sync like an orchestra. Now, are you going to do them all overnight? No. So you do the things that are most foundationally important. If you don't have business coming in on a regular basis, you have to start there. And you have to repeat those things that bring in a steady, concept of business coming in. Leads that lead to prospects, and that's done through this whole methodology that we've come up with, which is give away your best stuff for free. It's essentially how to sell, how to buy, how to become an agent, so that there's a lean in moment where they say, wow, that really was thoughtful of you. That was really nice for me. That was for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, if you'd like to know how to do it, well, then you could consider hiring us. And that starts with having us over, and we'll demonstrate live our insight. So I go from information that empowers to insight that guides. That's the switch, right? And then ultimately that insight just goes deeper when they become a client. And that's where it becomes more emotional for them because stuff just got real, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, cool. All right, there's our little warm up, and that's a little inventory of what's been happening over the holidays as we get a chance to digest what we're doing. But obviously, this call is about you and your questions. I know a lot of people still taking time off here, so we have a small crowd. So I'll go as deep and long as we have people asking questions here today. All right, so let me open up the mics. All right, how we doing out there? Guys all hearing us okay?
Fantastic.
Oh, yeah, we know you are. First Lady of Real Estate from the West Coast. All right, what do we got?
You look great.
Only because you tell me I am. I buy in.
Yeah.
All right, what do we got? Gail, anything for me or anybody?
Well, I mean, sorry, let me just.
It's okay.
I
We know your fancy
I wanted to
ringtone.
know and I did text you, and
Yeah.
when we have a commission from a real estate agent, and you did tell me how to do it. I sent it to my bookkeeper. I hope she understands. So I just need to know what that should actually look like.
Yeah, Gail was asking a business question the other day, and I'll deal with it because it's for those of you that are the leader of a team or a broker owner. I think it's important for you to understand that, how do you account for all this stuff as you grow? You're in partnership with an agent just as you are with a seller, and so it's commissions paid out to the business. So you think about it, Gail, as two independent contractors coming together, and it's just buyer agent commission. That's all it is, seller agent commission. And it's what's called.
But Danny, when I do the P&L and that, how will that look?
It's a cost of goods
So
sold.
I get the P&L, I get
Yeah.
it.
It's a cost of goods sold. It's up the top. So in other words, gross revenue comes in. Every business is driven by gross, in this case, service gross commission income. That's number one. Even for all those agents that are listening that would be part of another company, you have to account for everything. So let's just say you were at Keller Williams, like when I was training somebody there for the first time, and they weren't even accounting for the piece they paid to Keller Williams. Huge mistake. If I bring in a $10,000 commission, that gets booked at the top line of my business, my personal business as an agent, right?
My personal business.
Yep. So Rossetti Realty, there's a gross commission. Your agent just, in your case, I know 10,000 is like, chicken feed. So let's call it like a $25,000 commission comes into Rossetti Realty. It's booked as gross commission income. Then what subtracts from there is what you would call cost of goods sold. So in manufacturing, that's the terminology, cost of goods sold. You can't make a sale without a cost, like a raw materials cost. And that's the agent actually doing the deal. So it's buyer commission, right? It could be that simple as a line item. So you've got this top line gross commission minus buyer agent commission, minus seller agent commission. Those are costs of sale.
When at the end of the year, when I do that, is it, when I make $1 million and let's say 250,000 was from agents, am I paying taxes on all that?
No, it's an expense to your company. No, it's an expense. You're putting. Hold on. I'll answer it very specifically. again, and this is important for all salespeople to understand, because unless you're an employee of a corporation, which is very rare in the real estate agent business, you're an independent contractor. Okay. That's the same for your company. So you could have somebody incorporated even in your company, and you pay them out. It's like an independent contractor that you're paying out for a service that they brought to the company. So no, it's an expense to you. When you pay out a commission, whatever the split is, that's an expense to your company. So I bring in 25,000, I pay out 2/3 of that. That's an expense. That 2/3 is an expense to me. So you're only paying taxes on your net.
I was making it complicated.
Way too complicated. Way too complicated. It's an expense. And then, of course, just to finish the conversation so everybody gets it, is that's the gross profit. So let's presume that you don't sell any properties yourself. So, and let's presume for simple argument that you're on a 50-50 split with every agent. So $1 million comes into the company, $500,000 gets paid out. You have a $500,000 gross profit to then pay all of your operating expenses, turn a profit upon which you pay taxes. Then there's some other funky stuff, like if you have equipment, you're depreciating, those are non-cash charges that you can even soften the blow even more. Okay. So that's an accounting 101 basic, but it's A minus B equals C, right? Your gross minus your expenses equals your net. That's it.
Yep.
Yeah. And by the way, for agents too, what you should be training at Rossetti Realty is that basic. And I think this is a fair, conversation, especially at the end of a year on a sales training call, because salespeople, when they're accounting for what their goals are, we start our agents on the same thing. Look, it's not my problem how you manage your expenses, so I'll train you on how you do that, right? Our proposition at the company is to make sure we lessen, like we just had a gentleman in here that we hired today, right? One of my agents brought him in under him. And so we met, sharp business guy. And at the end of the day, I was like, look, he asked me what expenses. I said, very basic when you come to me. Because he said, I can't stand like, oh, and then this fee and this fee. And nope, that's not us. You have to pay your MLS fee. You got to get me a picture. You got to buy your URL and then show up or don't. Because we got all the online training. We have all the live training. We have the mentoring. We have everything. So that's how you make a proposition to an agent, or any of you that are out there deciding what agency to go to. What are you getting in exchange for the money that you pay out? So you have two people looking at it. And I'm very confident that, anybody in this group has super big value to offer. Cool. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay. Very good. You're welcome. Kate, Sonia Coffey, John Parasek, Terry, I'm guessing. I'd love to, you were all in here early. So Sonia, especially you, how are you? Happy New Year.
Good morning, good afternoon, Happy New Year.
Yeah.
Hey, Danny, I had a question for you.
Shoot.
So have you used send out cards for your expired?
I have used many things to send out stuff automatically, or at least digitally. So I would tell you that send out cards is an alternative to Zen Direct, which I use to send gifts to past clients. I use Quantum Digital for direct mail. So quantumdigital.com. I have used, the first time I ever saw it, I think they were called something different way back in the day, Sonia, but I used them. So if you're going to do any direct mail that you need to do automatically, for example, just sold, just listed, our newsletter, which we custom upload, I would highly recommend them before I would send out cards. Unless, and again, this is sort of that marketing message discussion. We use these specific vendors for certain reasons because we have a very clear system. And it goes back to the beginning of the call when I was talking about being a person for others. Our number one package that we send out is that original package that we've been granted permission to send, because we telemarket and say, hey, Mr. Expired, we saw your beautiful house online. We noticed it didn't sell. We want to send you some information that will help you sell it the next time. That's a very particular strategy, Sonia. We're not guessing to whom we're mailing that, right? We've gotten permission.
Right. Well, see that I'm taking a photo of their house and putting it on a card and then following up with a phone call.
Okay.
And then I was going to send the package. Do you think that's too much?
Well, again, I think the delay in putting together a picture of their house, you're trying to wow them with diligence.
Right.
I get it. Okay. I get it. You're trying to demonstrate why your message, why you, right? I get it. I would challenge it a little bit if it delays you. The fastest path to getting in conversation with somebody is face to face. So you can always make an argument that that person who door knocks and has the right thing to say is the fastest. The second fastest, or perhaps even faster, is the telemarketer who picks up the phone and says something. So the fact that you have to sort of drive by their house, take a picture, come back and do it, I mean, I just think there's huge inefficiencies in the strategic approach, because let's presume that today, and I know where you are in California, it's a pretty big area, right? So let's presume that today you go into this area where 10 people expire today. Now, you would just as likely, presuming they're all in the right neighborhoods at the right prices that you target, you would presumably want to get at all 10. Well, your strategy prohibits you from. Well, hang on, guys. Yet prohibits you.
This is Jackie.
I don't know who Jackie is. Hang on, Jackie.
Hello?
Yep. Hang on.
Hello?
I don't know who that is.
Hi.
Oh, hang on. I had to put that on hold for a second. I don't know who that is. So, because I want to finish this. Sonia, with me still, right?
I am.
Okay. So very specifically, when you go into that whole idea of why am I doing this? See, you're asking me a tactical question, which I appreciate, and I think it's a good one. But the bigger question is I'm taking you up above it and saying, why that strategy? I'll give you an answer, quantum digital. How about that? Okay. That I can give you. Now they have a minimum, I think, that you can send. Yeah. So the problem is if it's just that, then there's a bare minimum. So you'd probably be better off with a software that just allowed you to put it in like a template and print it out. And I don't know what that would be or who would do a one-off postcard. Maybe you already know that answer better than I do. And if it is send out cards, then stick with them. If you can send one postcard to one house and send out cards allows you to do that with a template that you already have ready, great. But I'm going to challenge the strategy. Number one, let's presume that you say, I don't care what you say, I'm going to continue to do it. Great. What's the messaging on the card? How long do you wait for it to get there? How long do you wait for the telephone call? Is the telephone call?
See, these are all my questions I
Perfect.
have for myself too. And
Perfect.
I don't know if I'm just spinning my wheels and wasting time. And yeah, okay.
I think you are.
Mhm.
I think you are, but I wouldn't beat myself up about it. Okay. Here's what I would
Right.
say. Let's go back to the fact that you're even interested in calling an expired listing. Is that where we start?
Correct.
Okay. So
Well,
Go ahead.
I think I'm fighting the calling again.
no, of course you are. Welcome to the club. It's a big boat. Get down the back of the ark with the other two, right? I mean, trust me,
Yeah.
that's a biggie. There's not a business person that has to be responsible for all these things. It's perfectly oriented. Some business people, I have a couple people like Paul Cantu, and there's a couple other people, they love to make phone calls. Autumn was born to make phone calls. Okay. God love him, right? Because I don't wake up every day going, I can't wait to call a whole bunch of people that I don't know, neither does Laura. So we hired somebody that does say that. So in your case, if you cannot hire somebody to do it yet, then what you want to do is understand why it can be easier. The reason you're fighting it is because you have a paradigm that it's an ugly thing to do to people. I know why. Right? Because I've been doing this and training this for quite some time. I get the mentality. So here we go all the way back again to why I prefaced the call this way. If you start with, I am going to be a person for others, meaning I am going to serve buyers and sellers in this specific marketplace within which I would like to do business. So I need an avatar or ideal client who's looking to sell, in this case, who will understand the value that I can bring them. That's it. That's where we start. Okay. So we know where they are, kind of who they are as defined by neighborhoods and price ranges, right? And now I have to come up with something that I can say to them on the phone that's helpful. It's the only code I need to crack. So what could be helpful if somebody was trying to sell their property? Your best stuff for free. So the guidance I give you is, hey, let's master the obvious first. Everybody's trying to get so esoteric and come up with something tricky. Well, I took a picture of their home and nobody else did that. I get it. I get why we drift down there. But what you're missing is this big rock in the jar that 99% of the population has no clue as to the true process that you go through to sell a house. They have perceptions. They think they do. Well, I've sold 6 houses, they flex. Well, they don't know it. They don't know the order of things because most agents don't know the order of things. Well, it's pretty simple. You put these big rocks in order and you teach it to them. That's it. Hey, look, at the number one thing as you're selling your property, you need to be understanding the price range and how that works. If you want to move up in the price range, you have to talk about what to recondition and what not to. Then you need to move your furniture around so it opens it up, cleans it up, minimizes. Then and only then can we begin to memorialize the marketing, put it up online, and then push it around through open houses, etc. Now we get into the next stage where people, co-brokes, 88% of the time, one brokerage to the next, are going to bring their buyers. I'm going to have those conversations in the house, right? And we're going to see how we stack up. Once we make any adjustments on price or condition things that we can, we're going to get an offer. We're going to negotiate based on the same math we started with, and we're going to close with care. That's the universal process for selling any property, anytime, anywhere. And most agents don't understand how to say that as quickly as I did when that's what they've done, even if they've done one deal. So you chunk it up, you understand it, and then you share it. So when you pick up the phone and you offer to send them some information that will help them sell it themselves the next time, if you can be that detached, well, now you'd have no reason to wait for anything. Hey, Sonia, Danny Griffin calling from Griffin Realty Group. The reason I'm calling is I saw your beautiful house online and I noticed it didn't sell. So I wanted to send you some information that will help you sell it the next time. Well, everybody's been calling me. There's been 35 people that are calling me. I understand, but I don't know if anybody has actually sent you any information that will help you sell it the next time yourself if you want to. Because that's what this is. It's basically a do-it-yourself kit. Well, what's in it? Well, there's our 7 steps to seller success, but it's supplemented by a fistful of properties that were in your price range, in your geography, that sold while you're in the market, so you can begin to self-analyze what you lost out to. That's a very difficult thing to say no to. And it's very, very different because people panic. People look at, I could say this to the public like over and over. I could say it to all my competitors. Do you think anybody's going to do it? They're just not, because everybody gets stuck in that fear paradigm that, number one, picking up the phone is an intrusion. We can't believe how many people are underserved out there that have tried to sell their house. We just can't fathom it. 2 of the people we've dealt with got all the way to an offer and for silly reasons didn't close. So we were hired to just finish the job, right? So you're going to be stunned at how well received this is. So what you're doing is coming up with other techniques and tactics to avoid doing the easiest thing. How about that?
Right. I need to master what you just said. And it's not just being a copycat. It's exactly what I need to say.
Why wouldn't you copy me? Why wouldn't you copy me?
Well, yes.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah. I mean, that's my script.
You got
exactly.
it. Why wouldn't you? A code is a code is a code. I'm only here to help you serve people like we serve people. If I can affect somebody that's a seller positively because you copy what we say, well, awesome, killer. I'm living my life the way I want to. Right? So like, see, there's the other weird thing about us too. We almost feel like there's an obligation to be so wildly unique that we're afraid to copy what works, right? Why? Why are we so intimidated by, copying things that work? I'm not. I mean, I'm a creative. I want to, do it my way. What makes you unique in that moment is how you tenderly take care of that person on the other end of the phone versus the way I would, Autumn would, anybody would. That's what makes you unique, the way you sound and the way that you do it. When you listen to, I know we won't have a lot of recordings today because, like I said, people are still on vacation for the holidays. But when you listen to this, what makes this unique and fun is that it is individual. Now, the problem is what I just said to you has been beaten on. Now, does it sound exactly like that in every call? No. Why? Because after dialing the phone multiple times, all these ideas in our head that conjure up about what's going to happen to the line, our heart starts to beat. Oh my gosh, somebody finally answered the phone. Oh my gosh, did I forget what I said? This is why I'm teaching. Get athletic first. And what that means is get your feet under you, have the package of information that you're about to send to this person if they say yes, right in front of you as a visual, okay? And just slow down and just say, hey, it's me from here. I saw your beautiful house online and I noticed it didn't sell. So I have this package of information right next to me that I'd like to mail out to you. May I do that? Permission marketing. Because the world changes dramatically when somebody grants you permission to market to them, because that's essentially what you're doing without being gratuitous. You're actually marketing something that's helpful. You're giving them something helpful, but that's marketing. That's just, it is still serving you too and allowing you to get into the home with your marketing. It has your logo, it has your letter, it has your voice, it has your tone, it has your pictures. That's marketing, but it comes dressed completely in transparent help. Like if they never wanted to talk to you again, if they have a 7-step seller course, if they have 6 or 7 comparables with multiple pictures and details of when they sold, how they sold, etc., and they can make their own comparison, you have completely empowered that person. That's marketing. And it puts you in such a wildly unique lane that all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, eureka. Like I really am in this unique lane. And people lean in because the law of reciprocity is more powerful than any gratuitous ask type of marketing or ask telemarketing. So see, the minute you change this idea, Laura always like sort of rants and raves. Why didn't we have this before? Just our frustration that we didn't crack this code. I know why. Because it was always about us. What technique and tactics should we use? Devoured by our own fear to interrupt people, make these calls. We'd have to like make her sweat and turn all red, and she would do it, but it was terrible. When you look back, it was horrible. What a horrible technique, because the strategy sucked and it wasn't based on helping them. It was based on transactionally getting something. Yes, did we, Sonia, have the heart of helpers? I suppose, but that wasn't clear to people that didn't know us. Right? That makes sense?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. And before, I don't mean to hop the call, but
no, go ahead. We have a small group.
How do you record calls? How do you record your calls?
Oh,
are you allowed to do that?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, for training purposes, yes.
Right.
You're not using.
Yeah. It goes to you, but
yeah.
Well, how do you do that?
Oh, there's a thing. There's an app on a phone called CallRail. I think one of our mastermind members uses CallRail. That's one.
CallRail.
Yeah, CallRail. I think there's some. Just go on your app. You just phone call recorders. Just go on the app store on your smartphone, and you can download something there. Right. So yeah. But because here's what's important. Here's the order of things I would suggest. When I do a training call for training purposes to help everybody hear better and I can listen to the consumer, again, I'm going to repeat. Everybody gets so weirded out. Can you record calls? Can you do this? I'm here to serve consumers first. You happen to be one of them, all of you, but in the same breath, this is about making real estate better. If I can hear the consumer across the country, in Canada, in the United States, if I can hear the consumer who is our boss, we can make life better for them by training around what we hear from them. So if we hear a positive reaction, intuitively, we put this package together to serve them, to essentially give them the information that we're going to use to help them if they choose us. Just give it to them. So when we saw a positive reaction to that, right, we were good, right? We're like, okay, that's good. But let's listen to how you say that to them so that as you're saying it to them, is it lost on them? Do they understand it? Do they need an explanation of what's in it, right? Do we need to go further explaining this thing? So, and then they would have their moments where they're throwing up all over you, their situation, and some, they're just swift with you and they're short. And so I think to hear the consumer, your boss, respond will give you confidence to continue to refine your methodology in the direction of serving them, because you'll begin to see formulaically, meaning repetitively, there are universal things that appeal to the consumer. So you start with that stuff, and that's what helps you refine what you're saying and how you're saying it. Okay. So I think it starts there. Secondly, you could learn any script from me that you want. And the opening to that kind of methodology is easy. And you can almost read it and sound conversational from the very start. But it's really from there, you think you're reading it. You think you sound like that. But the benefit of hearing yourself talk to other humans is you're probably rushing. The body chemistry, this is why I say get athletic, because if you just say, I got to get my calls in today, and you sit down and start dialing and you're not even oriented, well, you don't sound the way you think you do. You don't. And in Ottawa, we've had tremendous success with a big team because they have a big telemarketing team up there. We've had tremendous success by continuing to refine it because they were still using old methodologies mixed with new methodologies, and it was sounding weird and long and everything. And even though they were getting a good result, I don't care about a good result. I want a better result always. right? So by hearing both sides of the conversation, you start with your boss, the consumer. Are you truly serving them in that phone call or not? Is it very simple and clear what's coming to them and why it benefits them and what to do? And then at the end of the call, are you gaining permission again to follow up to make sure they got it, so you have a reason to call, and then you have your upsell moment. Hey, Sonia, Danny Griffin calling. I know we chatted last week about your house, and I wanted to send that information that'll help you sell it. I just want to see if you got it. Oh, I did. It was great. Super. In that package, there was a bunch of properties. Did you have a chance to look through those properties? I did. None of them really look like mine. Oh, really? What's different about yours? Now I'm talking about property specifics. This is about their house versus these others. And I'm crossing a Rubicon. I'm moving from information that empowers them to insight. And I'm willing to give them that insight for free. Okay. And I can also lean in a little bit more about timing. Hey, listen, I don't know when you were thinking about coming back on, but one of the things that I could do, that package right there, if you tell me what you didn't like about those houses, I can take those details down, put you into MLS so that you are constantly getting properties that are most like yours. It's free. It's no obligation. They'll be right in your inbox. So as you're getting ready to sell, may I do that? So now I'm back to a second permission, and I'm more likely to get permission to do that continuity of follow-up with them if I've given something to begin with that's helpful, right? They might argue the data, but I just sent this blindly. All I did was take a look around your neighborhood. I went a little bit above and a little bit below the price range that you were in to just show you what the money was buying. I made no qualitative interpretation that your house was better or worse than theirs. I haven't seen yours. You want me to see it? Happy to come over and refine this whole thing. See, there's the natural segue into what's next if you want more. We can cross from me just giving you information to me giving you insight. You want to hire me, really know how to do it, you can hire me. So it all becomes a logical progression if we'll just take our time. That make sense?
So simple, so giving, so perfect.
So
Yes,
easy.
it does. It makes so much sense.
So easy.
I don't know why I'm fighting it so much.
You know why?
Like,
Well,
I just don't know. I don't know the script. I don't know.
Yeah.
Haven't got my package together. I
Yeah.
got my shit in gear.
There you go. Well,
Totally.
there's what number one is. I think the most important thing is simply, so I want to cover all three avatars. Now, one of these won't be important to you today, but it might be down the road if you want to grow a team, et cetera. But as you look at sellers, they should be primary. Inventory runs this business, and the more that you can do business with sellers, the more you can attract buyers too. So you have both sides of the business built into primarily focusing on one. But it's the same thing for the buyers. You just have to now go back to, as an alternative to expireds, where could I find buyers? That's why I personally like open houses. I want to be in a house where somebody walks through the door and I can essentially give a buyer presentation face to face. Once I know that they've logged in, signed into the house, they're not working with a realtor, I can take the same package I just sent to the seller, orient it for the buyer. Now I have a buyer course in there. My package is ready. I have the buyer course. I have a market update, what's happening in that local Cape Cod or Boston market. I can then put, the pictures and details of properties that are also for sale, if in case they don't like the subject they're in, and some solds that starts to cross that Rubicon and get into insight. And if I give that and talk about that with somebody in the house, I've just built an opportunity to say, hey, why don't you take this, take a drive around. I've got your good information here. And Laura will call you to follow up to see if you saw anything that you liked, and also maybe get you set up on MLS. That's it. So it's the same thing in both places. I just have to now get myself athletic and say, I'm underneath my buyer strategy. How do I copy this same stuff that sounded so easy to me? That make sense?
Right. Sure.
Yeah. So it becomes very easy, but you're right. You must manifest and produce a package of helpful information that guides them, and be willing to give that away without expecting anything in return legitimately, because there's nothing more powerful for marketing than the law of reciprocity. Nothing that I've found. I don't know. Could you make an argument? I mean, I think there's NLP stuff that works. I think cold calling over and over and over again works. I'm just not down with it. I'm not. It's not my vibe. Right?
I agree. I agree with you 100%. Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Correct. Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome. Terry, saw you.
Danny,
Right? I got you. Got you, girl. Go ahead.
sorry, I'm still battling that same cold first.
Well, Terry, when you have that many young kids, you got no chance, right?
Ridiculous.
Yeah,
Oh, I've run into thing with a few expireds recently,
sure.
and I apologize for the repetitive question.
No, I love him.
And I missed because I was out.
what do you do with people that were on for 3 or 4 days and they listed their home because they were under contract on another home and that fell through and now they've taken it off the market?
You have to determine if that was the only house. You know, Terry, I think it comes back to the fundamentals. Why were you moving in the first place? Okay. Because
Right.
a
And
lot
I've
of,
asked,
yeah, hold on. Let me finish one thought. Because a lot of people think that, like, they actually really want to move, but they think that's the process, Terry. Oh, there's the one. And if it's not that one, that's the end of it. Well, that's ridiculous. But that's the way people think. So they'll make a decision like that whimsically to go after one house. And then it's a cognitive distortion to think, oh my gosh, I will never, ever find another house like that one again, or anything that could satisfy whatever need it was that made me move. Right? So what you say is like, okay, I get it. So really you kind of go back to the buy side. You say, let's just go back to the house that you were trying to buy. So instead of pushing them on the sell side, that person has a huge paradigm of thinking, there's no way I'm even talking about my sale until I see where I'm going and I know how I secure that without losing this one, right? Now, to us, as realtors who are benevolent and caring, we know that we can control that process for them and move them over there slowly and correctly, right? That's what we know.
Mhm.
But ultimately, you have to educate them on that, right? You have to educate them.
Yep.
So that's how this becomes that thing where you're educating them, saying, hey, look, tell me about why you went after that house. Like, was that a friend or was that something, or what was your process? And what you'll reveal is that it was sort of a quick, whimsical process. So I think you have to go back to those people and determine, why were they moving? Why do they believe it's only that house? What if I could help you vet some other properties while you were there? And why didn't your house sell? Because you probably overpaid for that one and you couldn't make the math work. So there's two things. I would start on the buy side, finding out why they were doing that house, and if that's the only house, because it's not, right? Then I would come back and say, look, I get why you did that, but sometimes when you chase a buy side and you pay too much, that's why you overprice your sell side. Why don't I just have Karen do an analysis of what's happening on the sell side, do a net sheet, so you're more empowered with better information, right?
Yeah. So with that, though, they've expired after 3 or 4 days, these couple that I have, and they took it off the market themselves because the house that they were trying to go after fell through.
Yeah. Why did it fall through?
Right. That part of it. But I mean,
Well, no.
I
Hold
don't
on.
know.
Don't dismiss that. That's not part of it. That's it. That's it. Why did it fall through? I'm dealing with some
Yeah.
clients right
Okay.
now. I don't have the person that it fell through. I'm coming into an expired listing where there was an offer on it that had a home sale contingency. And I'm sort of scratching my head and said, why did it fall through? I picked up the other agent and said, why did it fall through? Well, we had this thing with a little permit. We're almost there. Wonderful. But if they have to come down the price, don't worry about that. It's like, if it's not going to be at that number, it's better that we have a discussion about a number than nothing. So the solution to this is a little bit of patience, a little bit of diligence, and just being like understanding where everybody's at, controlling emotion. But if you don't know why it fell through, I'm trying to tell you exactly where to poke, right? Yeah, find out why it fell through. It feels very whimsical. Why did we go through this whole thing?
Right. So more on that side then, because I mean, they technically didn't expire because they couldn't sell their home. They took it off the market.
Correct. But did they have any action in 4 days? What happened? But again, this is an easy one.
Yeah.
They only listed because they found a thing they wanted. Why did that fall through? Is that the only one? Is it something that could be resolved? Right? I think you have to go digging on the front end there and understand the situation.
Okay.
Terry, I think it would help you to get up above these scenarios, to ask, like, if you can see yourself above the whole transaction. Yikes, these people were in here. They made a quick decision to go after this. They quickly listed it and the whole thing collapsed. Get up above it and be curious about the entirety of the story. And I think then you'll have the guiding strategy for anything like this, or any failed model. What happened? Why didn't it sell? How far did you get? Did you get any offers? That's the curiosity, so that you can get up above to find out where the problem was strategically. See, like two people I can think of, one was trying to buy, one's trying to sell. They got all the way to the communication stage where they made offers that were acceptable, or close or good, and nobody could put it together. So I just needed to go right to communication, get to the other co-brokes in both cases, and start working the solutions. One's already solved and closed. The other one will be pretty soon.
Okay.
Cool? Yep. Sorry, get no voice. You blew a gasket.
So
Yeah,
bad.
that's okay. All good. Appreciate you being here asking the
and
question.
just a quick side note.
Yeah.
I have recently, just for everybody, not that anybody may even care, I took our whole buyer, because we dial out a Mojo, and I took our whole buyer lead section, that like people that I haven't gotten a hold of, and I recycled them all to start over, like once a day for 5 days and once a week for 4 weeks.
Yep.
And I am getting so many people that are answering by doing that. That if I know nobody has extra time, but I tossed them all in there, and it's unreal who's answering now. And I mean, these are people that signed up in like June or
Yeah.
August.
Yeah. Well,
and they're
again,
answering now.
yeah, well, again, because if you had an internet lead that signed up for something, I mean, their process is much longer. And so, their conversation develops over time. So any conversational style email or educational email that reprovokes them, you're there with the right message at the right time. See, that's the problem with internet leads, is a lot of them start so dang early that we try to skim the cream and then we give up. Well, that's not a good method, right?
Right. So a lot of luck there.
Yeah. Awesome. Good news. Thanks for participating, even though your voice is blown.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. Who's next? I got a little bit more time. I'll give it one more call. Otherwise, we'll call it early. Come on. I know you have a burning question there. Oh, hold on. I did mute somebody earlier before. Hey, Kate, is that you? Kate?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Somebody was saying some other name from your phone.
From my phone?
Yeah, it was weird. I don't know. Somebody's calling out to me. Yeah, it was weird. It was a cross line. Anything to add here? Because I had that line muted.
No, I don't.
Okay, cool. All right, listen, all. Then I'll let you off the hook early today, because everybody's still playing hooky on vacation. Have an awesome weekend, but come prepared. 2020 is already underway. So you want to get after these strategies early and often. And I say it'd be a great, where Sonia kind of took us today, be a great time to understand why you have fear. It's simply because your strategy has failed and you keep falling deeper into trying to find solutions to get over fear that can be much more easily overcome by being a person for others and having these packages prepared. I'm just telling you, that's changed the way that we do business here at Griffin Realty Group, and we're loving it. We're having fun again and serving a lot more people than we did before the right way. So keep that in mind. I'll see you on the other side next week. Have a fabulous weekend.
Thank you, Danny.
You're
Have a great
welcome.
weekend.
You're welcome.